In another blow to homeowners, new research has found home insurance premiums are soaring across the country.
The increases are driven partly by the growing cost of natural disasters. For more on this, we're joined by Today Finance expert Effie Zahos. Effie, good morning.
Good morning.
What are the key findings in this report?
Well, this report comes out this morning by Actuaries Institute. So they're the peak body for actuaries, and it is really concerning. What they're finding is about 1.24 million households are now under affordability stress. They cannot pay their home and contents insurance, or they're stressed with it. So that's about 1 in 8. That's gone up by 1 million households in 1 year. So the premium increases for a typical policy is about 28%. For those in a high risk area, of 50%. But let me make this clear. This is on new policies. They checked out about 40,000 policies. Existing policies could be actually higher. You're watching this and probably thinking, hey, my policy's gone up more.
Insurance companies, are they fleecing us?
Look, Carl, and this is what this report goes through. Obviously, you saw, profit margins come out, Suncorp announced last week and so on. There is definitely profit and fat in there. But the biggest problem here, and this is my biggest gripe, I keep saying swap and save and change. The big issue here is that as we have climate deteriorates and we've got flood zone areas and our policies and our taxes on these insurance premiums, they're the big areas. I can keep saying swap and save, but the fact is if you're paying $9,000 on your insurance premium and I'm telling you can save $700, that doesn't mean much.
I mean, this is the thing, you're saying that they're the hardest hit areas, but it's almost an area that hasn't been hit, right?
Well, have a look. They had this heat map, which I really liked, because basically it showed, let me explain this. The dark green means no pressure. This is the number of weeks it takes for you to pay your premiums, and this is gross income. The red area basically means you are under so much stress that you're spending more than 4 weeks to pay for your premium. In some cases, about 8.8. So, this is a case now, and as the report points out, and we said this last week, that we're getting to a stage where people will not insure their homes, and that is dangerous.
I think in far Queensland it's like $4.5 grand for a premium, and then you've got an excess on top of that of whatever.
Yeah, and have a look. They actually showed what it costs around Australia. These are for new policies, so existing ones may actually be a little bit cheaper. But see the blue bar there? This is what gets me. The blue bar is the taxes, the state levies, or GST. In New South Wales, the average policy, this is the mean. It can be, like I said, it can go up to $9,000 depending on where you are. $700 odd of the $2,600 you pay goes towards stamp duty, levies and GST.
On an insurance premium?
On an insurance premium.
Why have they got their noses in the trough for that?
Well, that's a good way of putting it. Other states have moved it towards basically land tax, and because it's a percentage of your premium paid, it's not equitable, and they're also calling for that, the actuaries as well.
You just say look around and you'll find a better price.
Okay, here's my tip. First of all, when you get your policy renewal, I would actually go on my existing website. If you're, say, with Amy, let's say, go onto Amy's website, type in your existing details and see what would they give a new customer. Then go and get 3 other quotes. Then call your insurance and go, hey, I just did a quote on our website here, the website we're with, and it's cheaper there than it is on the premium. See if you can negotiate. You can change your excess, you can do things like that. Swapping and save on average towards CanStar data shows you can save around $700.
You can definitely negotiate with Amy though.
Oh, you can negotiate
with
all of them. That's the thing. But as I was saying, we're getting to a point where these premiums are going to continue rising, that even $700 is not going to mean much.
No, it's true. All right, Effie, thank you.
Thank you, Effie.
Another add to the cost of living.
Well, Australian households may be forced to abandon home insurance altogether as more and more families struggle to pay the soaring costs. This comes as complaints about skyrocketing power bills rise by more than 60%. Let's bring in investment portfolio manager June Bei Liu now. June Bei, thanks so much for your time this morning. Now, choosing to forego home insurance altogether is a serious decision, but that's how desperate it's become for some people.
Look, absolutely. The cost of living has risen significantly. Not only the energy, it's now insurance and electricity bills and phone bills and everything across the street has gone up significantly. Household is really struggling. We have heard from, many companies now so far this company reporting season that the consumer is really tightening their belts. Particularly that category between 18 to 35 consumer is really slowing down. And in the last 3 weeks, we've almost seen a collapse in terms of spending by that category of consumer.
It leaves a lot of people exposed, though, doesn't it? I mean, what would your advice be? I mean, do you risk it and forego that kind of insurance, given how desperate it is, or do you just invest in something so important?
Look, I think it's a very, very challenging period because consumer almost left with no choice, you know, because the cost has gone up so much. Insurance company, actually, we have heard from 2 insurance companies this reporting season. They are talking about more rate rises in the next 12 months. So it's not just 50, it could be a lot more to come in the next 12 months. So consumers really just foregoing some of those costs they can't afford.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned obviously the electricity prices as well. It's even as simple as going to the grocery store, right? I mean, supermarkets are getting more and more expensive as well.
Right. Yeah, it's incredible. You know, we noticed that even the restaurant average plate price, the main plate price now is somewhere between $70 to $80 now in Sydney. This is compared to the previous about $30 to $40. Now, restaurants, even anecdotal evidence, they're half empty during the busiest time. So, you know, consumers definitely pulling back, and some of those expensive services, unfortunately, consumer will have to drop.
And I guess because consumers are starting to pull back, that is having an impact, obviously, on inflation as well and bringing that down. It's obviously not the level where we want it to be, but what impact do you think that has on the economy, like, more broadly and for the short term?
Oh, look, absolutely. So we are seeing the inflation coming down quite quickly, and that is a good sign. We need that to come off, and so the RBA doesn't put up rates again. With the mortgages where they are, another rate rise could really tip our economy into recession. So right now, we need to see those, you know, bubbles really to come off for somewhat.
Are you hopeful about it, you know, flattening out a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I think inflation is going the right way. And if US is any guide, they are falling a lot faster than what people expect. And I think, you know, I would put more than 50% chance for the RBA to put the rate on hold. And that is a good sign for us to work through this really challenging period.
Yeah, so we just need to hang in there. All right, June Bag, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Carlos.
Calls for the government to make it easier for international airlines to fly into Australia in an effort to increase competition and bring down prices for passengers. For more, let's bring in the head of public affairs at Brisbane Airport, Stephen Beckett. Stephen, good morning to you. Thanks for your company this morning. Flights are so expensive now. We had tourism guru Screw Turner on the show on Friday saying it needs to be opened up and we need more competition. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, we're seeing more international competition coming into the market each and every day. Just yesterday, we announced new services from mainland China that will be flying direct to Brisbane. And earlier in the week, Cathay Pacific has increased its services by 50% from Brisbane to Hong Kong. That's all good news for consumers, and we'd love to see more of it.
Why don't we have more of it?
Airlines are struggling to bring aircraft back out of the desert. Many of them put their aircraft into hibernation. They let crews go. They're slowly building back, and that's putting pressure on the cost of an airfare. We know when there is more capacity, prices come down, and that's great news for Queensland. It's great news for Australia. It's good news for our tourism industry and jobs, but also for our farmers and those people who want to export good quality Australian product overseas. We know on our first ever international flight between Brisbane and San Francisco, there was 15 tonnes of Queensland beef in the belly of that aircraft.
The perception is that the government's reluctant to open it up too much because of the dominance and the lobbying of some of our established airlines, vis-a-vis e.g. Qantas. Do you think that's the case, or is that a furphy?
Well, the new capacity into Brisbane is from China Southern Airlines. It's from Cathay Pacific. Singapore Airlines have put their services up. We've seen United Airlines fly for the very first time between Brisbane and the United States. So we're seeing lots of capacity from lots of new providers here in Brisbane.
Qatar Airways recently tried to increase their flights into Australia but were knocked back. Do you think that's a valid reason why they were knocked back?
I understand. Look, we're right behind more competition in the market, and we would love to see more international services and capacity. It's a very complex set of arrangements on bilateral agreements, and the government takes into account a range of factors, including the national interest. But we would love to see more aircraft coming, because more aircraft means more jobs for Australians.
Is that going to happen, do you think?
I think we're going to see more competition, more capacity, and it's also great to see our domestic airlines also ramping up. It's great news for our home carriers also.
Good on you. Thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?
Always happens.